Welcome back to MotionPic Recap. Today we're going to recap the science fiction and action movie titled, The Old Guard. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. A woman's voice is heard asking if this time will be it, saying she's so tired of waking up again. Next, the woman whose name is Andy, is seen with her friend Booker, who asks her to help a former CIA operative called James Copley to rescue kids in a hostage situation. She answers they don't help people they've helped before, but eventually reluctantly accepts. Soon after, Booker and Andy meet two other old friends called Joe and Nikki. The four talk in multiple different languages with each other. Andy says there is too much bad happening in the world, and some good won't make a difference. The other three respond that they know she has had a 1-year break, but that this is what they do. Next, Andy and Booker meet James. He tells them he left the CIA when his wife died 2 years ago. James then tells them that militia in South Sudan attacked a school, murdered the teachers, and kidnapped the children in it, who are no older than 13. While Andy checks the intel, Joe and Nikki are seen watching them from afar. James tells them he needs to get it done quickly by the best, and says he wants their help since they are the best there is. They accept the mission and leave. Not long after, the team is seen in a helicopter, equipped with various weapons from different eras, and arrives in South Sudan. That night, the four infiltrate a militia base, fighting guards and soldiers with not only guns, but swords. They blow a wall, and enter a room where the kids are supposed to be. But lights are suddenly lit, and they are all shot to death by a unit of special ops that ambushes them. The unit thinks they are done, seeing their targets lying dead on the floor, when suddenly the four start to regenerate, get their bullet wounds healed, and come back to life. Before the special ops unit has grasped what has happened, the four start to attack them, and the soldiers seemingly have no chance against them. Nikki uses a medieval sword, and Andy uses an ancient battle axe. As the team has killed all the soldiers, they ask themselves where the kids are. However, they soon figure out that there never were any children, but that they have been set up by James, having recorded their regeneration. James is seen making a phone call, saying he got it. Afterwards the four are talking to each other, and Andy is upset since the world isn't getting any better, and that their attempts to save people all seem to be in vain. She says they have to find James and get that recording, after which she says they will stop helping people. Meanwhile in Afghanistan, US soldiers are seen in a village. A sergeant calls on a Marine called Nile, telling her that women are held up in a building, asking her to go with two other women soldiers to ask if anyone has seen a man they are searching for, who has killed a lot of people. After having asked the local women, one woman responds there are no men there, but looks at a covered door to give them a sign. The Marines kick in the door and are shot at, and so they shoot back, hitting the target. Since the man is wanted alive, Nile tries to save him, but as she does, she gets her throat slit and starts to bleed out on the floor. Later that day, Nile suddenly wakes up back at a Marine base. On their way out from South Sudan, Andy and the others all have the same dream about Nile while resting, and suddenly wake up. Andy becomes angry and unhappy that this happens now, and the team starts discussing what they saw, trying to figure out who the woman in their dreams is and where she is, which they manage to do. One makes a sketch of Nile, and Andy gets off to go and find her while the others continue to Paris. At the Marine base, two soldiers, Dizzy and Jay, talk to each other, saying they saw her die in that house. They go to see Nile, asking if they may see the wound, but she doesn't even have a scratch. Simultaneously in London, a man called Merrick is giving a presentation about revolutionary pharmaceuticals his company has created, and James is seen watching. In a limousine later, Merrick gets to see James's recording of the four regenerating. Merrick demands they not only trap one, but all of them so he can perform tests on them. James says they are extremely hard to capture, but Merrick insists he makes it happen, and quickly. Back in Afghanistan, Nile is told by a sergeant she needs to go to Germany for more tests, who also gives back her name tag they took off her as they thought she was dead. People are looking strangely at her, and she goes to be by herself to listen to music. Andy is seen having infiltrated the base. As two soldiers walk up to Nile to escort her to her ride, Andy steps out and knocks them all unconscious, including Nile. A while afterwards, Andy is seen driving a Humvee through the desert as Nile wakes up and jumps off. Andy stops, and as Nile attempts to run, Andy picks up a gun and shoots her. Andy asks herself rhetorically why regeneration has to be so slow in the beginning. Nile heals and wakes up. Scared and confused, she attacks Andy, but to no avail. She throws up, after which Nile asks who she is, and Andy replies that she leads a small group of immortal fighters, telling Nile to get back in the car if she wants answers. A while later, they arrive at a small runway in the desert, controlled by a Russian drug runner that Andy knows. They board a propeller plane to get a ride out of the country. After having taken off, Niall asks why this is happening to her, and Andy answers she does not know why. Niall then asks how many there are like her, and Andy answers that there are only 5 including herself, saying they will meet the others in Paris. Andy tries to rest, saying Niall should do the same. A while later, Andy wakes up being bound, and she sees that the pilot is being threatened by Niall to not go to Paris. Andy yells something in Russian and shoots the pilot. The plane starts to go down and Niall gets scared, untying Andy who can fly. But Andy tricked her, having told the pilot only to play dead. Niall then starts fighting Andy, who lets Niall fight her for a while, until Andy has had enough of it and breaks Niall's bones so that she collapses in pain. But she begins regenerating, and quicker this time. As Niall realizes it's all real, and that she can't be killed, she stops trying to fight Andy. The two then go to a place just outside Paris that has been abandoned for 50 years. As they meet with the others, Niall asks why they are all in her dreams, and they answer they all dream of each other, which stop when they meet, saying they believe they are meant to find each other. They continue explaining they are all very old, and Booker was the last one, who died in 1812 fighting with Napoleon. Nikki and Joe met each other in the Crusades, having fought against each other in the war. When Niall asks Andy how old she is, she only responds by saying she is too old. Niall thinks they truly are immortal, but then Andy explains there was another one, whose wounds didn't heal up one day, and who died, saying they are not actually immortal. While sleeping later, Niall wakes up from a bad dream. They ask her to tell them what it was, and she says she dreamed of a woman locked in an iron coffin under the sea, keeping on drowning and coming back to life. They then somewhat saddened begin telling Niall that her name was Quinn, the first immortal that Andy found. Way back, it was only Andy and her, and they fought side by side in thousands of battles. But in England one day, the two were accused of witchcraft, and were trapped and caught. But when they didn't die from any method, they were separated, and Quinn was put in a metal cage, and taken away. Far out in the ocean, they dropped the cage with Quinn in it. Andy, and later the others, have spent decades trying to find out where she was dropped, but could never find her. For 500 years, she's been trapped at the bottom of the sea, having become insane as a result. Niall runs out, and Andy follows her. They talk for a bit outside, and Niall is worried something similar will happen to her, but Andy assures her she will never allow it to happen again and would save them all if it was necessary, whatever it would take. Suddenly they hear shots firing from the building. They run back in, seeing Nikki and Joe gone, and Booker having been hit by a grenade. Andy gets worried as Booker isn't waking up, but suddenly he does as she hits him hard, and she is relieved. They figure James is trying to capture them, and Andy goes off to fight the soldiers who attack them. She takes out one soldier after the other, totally by herself. James is watching everything on monitors, and says they must leave immediately. As Booker is healed and the two follow Andy, Niall is shocked seeing all the killed soldiers, whom Andy fought on her own, and Booker comments that Andy has forgotten more ways to kill than entire armies will ever learn. They get out of the building, and see Andy having found a car for them. Meanwhile, Nikki and Joe are seen in a van with guards. As they are about to be brought out of the vehicle, the two have knocked all the men inside with them unconscious. They are then led on a plane to fly somewhere. Some time later, Andy and the others arrive at some old mine, and enter a hidden cave behind the vegetation. Niall asks what place this is, and Andy tells her it's an abandoned mine from the 1100s where they keep all the stuff they have gathered over the years. In London, Joe and Nikki are brought to Merrick's office, and to check their abilities in person, Merrick stabs Joe several times. Like expected, he regenerates. Merrick then tells them they will make some scientific experiments on them, without their permission, and the two are stunned and taken away. Back at the abandoned mine, as Booker and Niall discuss how they will find James, Andy notices she has a bleeding stab wound that is not healing. Without telling this to Booker and Niall, she says she will go out for a bit, and leaves them. She goes to a pharmacy to buy medical supplies. When she's about to buy the things, the cashier asks if she wants help, after which Andy is seen getting help from the cashier to fix her wound. When Andy gets back to the car, she thinks back at Lycon, the man who once was like them, but whose wounds one day didn't heal anymore, something they then thought was impossible. Back at Merrick's company, Joe and Nikki are seen in pain as scientists are extracting tissue from their bodies to make tests. Somewhere else in the building, Merrick is mentioning to James that he better get the other two immortals too, and that he will lock the four up forever so that his competitors don't get a hold of them. Back at the mine, Andy is seen talking to Niall outside, saying that she will get Joe and Nikki back at any price. Booker comes out, saying he found something, and says he thinks James lives just outside London. As they arrive to James's home outside London some time later, Booker gives Andy a gun, and they prepare to go in. Booker goes to scout the back, just as Niall suddenly tells Andy she has second thoughts about following them and becoming like them, since she is uncomfortable killing people. Niall mentions her family will get old one day, which she won't, but that it will be years before they realize, and that she wants to go to be with them as long as she can. Andy gives her a gun, telling her to ditch the car and the weapons in the trunk on her way home, and runs off. Not that far away, Niall is seen getting out of the car to throw away the weapons, but realizes all the magazines are empty, remembering it was Booker that checked the weapons. Inside the house, Andy and Booker find James in a room, and as they enter to confront him, she sees a wall of information about her and the others. Suddenly, Booker shoots Andy from behind, jumping on her, and tying her up. James tells her that, when his wife died, he started to learn about them, saying they could help end needless suffering. Andy says humanity can screw itself, after which she turns to Booker to ask him why he betrayed them. Booker says that, by helping Merrick to find out the key to their immortality, they might discover how to also end it, like she always wanted. He then suddenly sees Andy still bleeding from the gunshot, telling James to help him to stop the bleeding. That same second, Merrick steps into the room with guards. Merrick is surprised to hear that Andy is not healing, but tells his men to take them both anyway. James then tells Merrick that this is not what they agreed on, but Merrick ignores him. Back at his company, Merrick tells his scientists to keep Andy alive at all costs, and find out why she is no longer regenerating. At James's home, Niall suddenly appears, and James thinks Merrick sent her to kill him, and so she shoots herself in the foot to prove Merrick is not her boss. As she asks where Andy is, James reveals everything, saying Merrick only cares about her immortality, and not what she has done with it. Niall doesn't understand what he means, and so he explains. He shows her his research, and how Andy through the years has started ripple effects when saving people. The descendants of the people she has saved, have in turn saved humanity in various ways generations later, like preventing nuclear war or discovering life-changing medicines. Niall gets upset, asking James why he then gave them up, and he responds he thought it was a gift to humanity and that it could be the end of suffering, explaining his wife couldn't talk at the end of her life. Niall says it wasn't his gift to give. James then asks her why Andy's immortality disappeared, and Niall gets shocked, asking if Andy's still alive. Next, the two arrive at Merrick's company, and James is prepared to go in with her, but she says he won't get out alive if he goes in, saying she will go alone. James bids her good luck as she enters the elevator. On the lab floor, she's stopped by some guards. As she brings out an automatic firearm, they shoot her. Shortly after, when checking for some ID on her, she wakes up and shoots them. She continues into the building and finds Merrick, but is shot at by some guards, and so she runs off. Inside the lab, Andy and the others hear gunshots. Suddenly, Niall opens the door and steps in, seeing the others strapped. The scientist inside tries to inject her with something, but Niall easily knocks her down. Niall walks up to Andy, unstraps her, and tries to give her a gun, but Andy is unwilling to take it. Niall then reminds her that she gave a promise to save them, whatever it would take. Hearing this, Andy takes the gun, and they begin unstrapping the rest. Booker tells them they should leave him, but the others say they leave no one behind. Andy says they must find and stop Merrick, and the others ask if she is sure about fighting without her immortality, but she responds it changes nothing. Joe tells the rest to cover Andy, and they walk out. Soon after, the five start fighting and shooting guards attacking them, working as a team, and picking up loaded weapons as they go. The four also put themselves in the line of fire to protect Andy from getting shot. While the team is under heavy fire, Andy takes a fireman's axe and goes after guards on her own. The team suddenly realizes Andy is gone. She takes out a guy by herself just as the rest find her. They ask the mortally wounded guy where Merrick is, and get the answer that he is in the penthouse. They ask Andy if they should do like they did in Oslo in 1967, but she says they should do like they did in Sao Paulo in 1834, and divide up. In the penthouse, guards hear gunshots and how the team approaches, and Merrick is holding Andy's old battle axe that he took from her. Andy tells Niall outside the entrance that she goes through first, which Niall doesn't like, but Andy insists. As the guards are ready to shoot anyone entering the apartment through the door, Joe, Nikki and Booker make a surprise attack through the windows, after which Andy blows the door open, and they all come in shooting. Having eliminated the guards, they notice the elevator is going down, yelling to each other that Merrick is getting away. Niall stays with Andy in the apartment while the others go after him. Andy looks down on the street below, and Niall asks if she's okay. Finally the two get a quiet moment together, and Andy answers she's fine, but that it hurts everywhere, and Niall says jokingly she should wait until tomorrow. Andy then tells her she thinks she lost her immortality as Niall got hers, and says she knows how she wants to spend the time she has left. At the same time Niall says she must spend the time with them. Merrick shows up pointing a gun at Andy, holding her battle axe, saying he will shoot Andy if they try something, and asks why they didn't cooperate since it would help millions of people. Andy asks Niall if she thinks he speaks Russian, trying to discreetly hint at tricking Merrick like Andy herself tricked Niall in the airplane a few days earlier. Niall shoots at Andy, confusing Merrick, and Andy grabs her axe from him, taking him out. But Merrick lifts his gun to shoot her, and Niall quickly jumps in front protecting Andy, and jumps on him so they fall off the building. As Booker, Nikki and Joe get down and help her get out, Joe comments that was faster than the elevator. Andy comes down, and Niall hands her the axe. They get into a car, and they drive off, just as the police arrive at the building. Later, at a bar, Andy is seen coming out to Booker outside, saying there must be a price for what he did, and says the others will meet him again at this spot in 100 years, and that he will have to be alone till then. Booker expresses he won't see her again since she lost her immortality, and she says she will miss him. The two hug each other, after which the team is seen leaving him by himself. At James's home, they get to see all the good that James has found out they have done for humanity indirectly. Their actions have exponentially made the world a better place. Niall tells Andy that this must be their purpose. Andy tells James that he will help erase their footsteps, making sure they are not found and put in cages, so they can do their job of saving people, and James says he'd be honored to help them. Andy then says, "Let's go to work." 6 months later, Booker is seen coming home, noticing his door has been opened, and so he picks up his gun. He sees a woman in his apartment that says it's nice to finally meet him, and it's none other than the 500-year-old woman from the bottom of the sea, Quinn. The end.